Welcome to the Caring Orchid Foundation, Caring Orchid Promise talk radio show, brought to you and sponsored by Don Diva Enterprises, a Caring Orchid partner. We would like to kick off our Caring Orchid Promise with some good news, charitable organization updates, opportunities, and community and initiatives, and more. And with that, let's go into simple ways to get present. And as a charity service and charitable organization, we tend to like to let you know tips and tricks to stay present and walk you through different things that happen in your life due to the fact, again, as we spoke of before, about different lifetime changes and things that happen in your life. And we've talked about the things such as struggling versus opening up, expansion into your mindset, your urges and your sensations and feelings and difficult feelings and processing them. And we also talked about getting hooked into your thoughts and getting hooked into your mind and finding how mind, body, and how the triggers work for you. And then how to manage and hook yourself from bad triggers versus the good triggers and things like that. Then we're talking about the long-term effects and then the short-term effects, connecting the dots to the mind body. And with the dots, we mean by distractions, opting out of bad thinking, and then thinking about what you're doing, and then not going into overthinking and the what ifs and why me and not fair modes and things like that, or things that we use in the interim when we're going through things such as substance, self-harm, or strategies that are not helping us move to better strategies but to worse strategies. And part of that is finding things that you do that don't cause you self-harm or abusive prescription medicines or anything with suicide or anything like that. And those are things that we'll unpack here soon about what the impact of being displaced or environmental changes or detriments of environment or other things such as acquaintance or things that happen in the interim of going through life changes, or as in this time, in this climate, we're going through a pandemic epidemic of COVID, and it's not been easy for a lot of people to process or deal with having to sit at home on lockdown. And part of that is that if you're displaced and homeless already, it's already bad enough being homeless or not being in a place where you want to be at. And I remember the age old thing's not where you're at, it's where you want to be. And it makes it 10 times more difficult for a person who is in a displacement situation or in a situation of not being in the environment that they want to be in or thrive in. And part of thriving is being where you want to be at or positioned in a area that helps you to grow or makes you happy. And part of that was homelessness or a displacement or in bad situations, such as we talked about before with Caring Orchid and the different packages that we offer for that. And those will be uploaded to the website, caring-orchid-foundation.org, is that it's not easy for financial well-being. It's not easy for domestic violence. It's not easy for veterans. And it's not easy to get and obtain resources when COVID, it will cause this inertia of people or influx of people who end up displaced, or sometimes family members who are primary breadwinners might be losing their primary income. So what does that do? It causes a variable change, and it causes a serious change in the family dynamic, demographic, household numbers, and things like that. So charities like mine or other charities outside adjacent that you see, those big name charities that you see out there that are international, whereas mine might be local or in a region, you're looking at it gets taxed. The money gets taxed because you're having an influx of people requesting resources or help. And in that, we implore anybody during these times, donate to charities, donate to nonprofit organizations or for-profit organizations, donate clothing, donate food, do it contactless. If you drop it by the center, make sure everything is clean, make sure it's in bags, make sure it's washed, make sure it's very, very hygienic, make sure it's wrapped in plastic, make sure it's absolutely clean, so that when somebody comes through a charitable door or something like that and they're saying, well, my mom or dad or my uncle or grandma or Gangan, something happened, our primary breadwinner, because when you have the demographic or dynamic in your household change, and that might be the primary breadwinner in the household, whether it's mom, if it's dad, and you've got your essential workers that still have to work. If somebody drops, what can you do? You have the children that end up orphaned, or you have a husband that has to take on all the financial responsibility, or you have in the other interim, which is the perspective of the wife that has to take it on. If the husband was the primary breadwinner, what do you do now? You're coming through doors like mine, and you're looking for services, you're looking for finance, you're looking for money, you're looking for placement, you're looking for a hotel stay, you're looking for vouchers. What if you're at the end of your rope already financially and you needed, the last paycheck for a mortgage? Now you have to deal with a funeral. What if you have to deal with funeral costs? The things that we don't plan for or plan for, COVID has thrown a lot of those variables into people's lives. So what we're going to do is talk about being present, and then the next session we'll talk about being mindful. And with that, that's part of the series of learning how to deal with a pandemic, epidemic, and being present, and learning how to appreciate the worst times of your life, even though it is the worst time and it's the moment where you scream, the time where, bills are piling up, you're feeling like you're getting punched. And by the time something happens like that, the demographic in your household changes, it's at the point of finish him!
Finish him!
And at that point, you're just ready to throw in the towel. And at that point, I implore you to go and start writing these things down, that I'm going to give you tips and tricks to go and get through it. Because I can relate to this, because there's a point in time where I actually had been homeless, and it was a weird situation that happened. And I won't go into heavy detail, but being homeless taught me one thing. You have to learn how to thrive in spite of. I was going through college, and I had to learn how to be okay coming through someone's door and saying, I need help. I need this. I need that. What can you do for me? And, it takes 1 minute to be present and saying, okay, the situation is bad, but what can I do to help myself? Where do I pick myself up by the bootstraps and move on? And find a way to be present in the time and find things to do or things to go and change my mindset. I was going through college as well. So with that, I'm going to show you tips and tricks how to do that. And again, that is finding other things and other strategies, okay? So with that, you figure out vitality versus suffering, and then, like we were talking about previously, problems and values, and how to go through your struggles and suffering and find the rich and meaningful life meanings through your hardship or what you're going through at that time. And with this pandemic and epidemic is learning from your CDC, your levels of government, your leadership and management, who are going to tell you what you need to be doing in the interim to get through this, and strategically plan while you're going through this lockdown and figuring out, how do I stay present in this lockdown? How do I get myself to stay mentally okay and mentally fit? And part of that is overcoming a bad situation you didn't plan for. So we're going to take this exercise and use this as a way to stay present and a way to also be grateful. But we're going to go into this part first, and then we'll go to the next part. Now, this is a simple exercise to center yourself and connect with your environment. Practice it throughout the day, especially at times you find yourself getting caught up in your thoughts and feelings. And part of that is getting caught up in your thoughts and feelings can have you up there with anxiety, panic attack, and with COVID, it has caused a lot of people to have a mental breakdown that normally wouldn't have one. And the reason why is that it is literally what stress affects the body. And we went over this before about how stress can affect you. It really can hit anybody. So people who didn't think mental health is real, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to the best of us. And a situation like this can harm essential workers, doctors who have to see the influx of patients. They're not used to the heavy traffic of people coming in sick as a dog and dying, and you have to prioritize lives. Those things like that affect someone. So think about the demographic of being in a household like this, and or if you're displaced in a situation of being homeless, or you're a veteran, or you are in a domestic violence situation. Domestic violence is going up in instances of this. So we're seeing an influx of people coming through those doors who are like, oh my God, I've just got thrown out of the house. And, at this time you would think people will be coming together, but this is where you're seeing a lot of people falling apart. You're going to see a lot of the hikes in divorce. You're going to see a lot of hikes in kids in therapy and counseling because the parents are at each other's throats. So you don't want that either. So we're going to find simple ways to get present in that. So in that, we're going to take 10 slow breaths. Focus on breathing in and out slowly as possible until the lungs are completely empty, and then allow yourself to refill them by themselves. And then notice the sensations of your lungs emptying. Then notice them refilling. Notice your rib cage rising and falling, and then notice the gentle rise and fall of your shoulders. Then see if you can let your thoughts come and go as they are. And just like you hear a car engine revving up, think of that as you being present, right? You're thinking of you being present in the here and now. Think of your breathing as you hear that hum, hum, hum of an engine, right? You hear it revving up. So that is your breathing. So you're present. So breathing in and out. And this is what I meant by environmental and things that you can't control. So you're being present and you're breathing, right? So with that, you expand your awareness, simultaneously noticing your breathing and your body. Then you look around the room and you notice that you can see, hear, smell, touch, and feel. So with that, what did I do? I'm present in my breathing and present in my exercise, because when you have like an environment, you can't control the variables of an environment. And I'll give you a prime example. When you have disrespectful neighbors, or you have disrespectful environment, or you have a nuisance environment, what do? You're still present and mindful of your environment and yourself and what you can control. I can't control disrespectful neighbors or people in business, right? You can't control loud businessmen or disrespectful neighbors or a piss poor environment, but you can control the levels and depths of breathing, right? So we're being present in that. So with that, you have to learn what your locus of control is. You can't control disrespectful neighbors, right? That's a prime example for one. Or you can't control a bad detrimental environment. And you can't control outside variables, but you can control how you react, right? So in that, we're being mindful, we're being present in our breathing, and we're being present in the exercise. Okay. So then, on top of that, as you expand your awareness, simultaneously notice your breathing and your body. Then look around the room or where you're at in your environment, if that's in your office, home office, and with that, your environment. Again, you can't control the variables, and that's what I meant by alleviating yourself of poisonous spirits, poisonous environment, or detrimental environment, or disrespectful environment, or things that you know are variables that try to distract or try to elicit the negativity or try to elicit the feelings or emotional detriment that can happen. You can't control who you're around, and you can't control your environment, but you control your reaction, and you control being present and mindful. And that's part of these practices in doing all of this. And this is why I said sometimes you have to remove yourself from the environment, or remove the environmental stresses or the things or the factors or the demonic factors or the out of order or factors that you can't control, but you can definitely find other methods to nip it in the bud. But again, we're going to go through the rest of this exercise and dropping the anchor. And part of that is dropping the heavy weight, or the what I call a devil in a blue dress, or devil in blue pants, or devil in a red dress, or devil in red pants. And that is that demonic spirit or that poisonous spirit. And that is generally, sometimes your environment can be poisonous. The people around you can be poisonous. Your air, the air quality can be poisonous. For example, you can have like an AC unit. It can be very poisonous if it's tampered with. You can have people who are very poisonous of your mental health, emotional health, your environmental health. And those are prime examples of things that you have to drop the anchor on, or drop the heavy weight. And that's just like that revving engine, right? So you have to find a way to drop the anvil or the anchor of that heavy spirit or that demonic spirit, or the things that do not feed you or do not feed your mental health or your emotional health or your wellness. But again, with these exercises, that helps you to stay present and mindful. Okay. So now we're in the next exercise, which is dropping the anchor. This is another simple exercise to center yourself and connect with the world around you. Practice it throughout the day, especially anytime you find yourself getting caught up in your thoughts and feelings. And again,